No, anybody heard from? Okay, it's time to get started. I'll call this special meeting of the Lawton City Council to order. Please stand for the invocation by Pastor Bob Weeker and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Let's pray. Father, we come before you this afternoon thanking you for this day. And Lord, as we gather together today, we ask once again for your wisdom, for your guidance in making the decisions that impact all of us. And we pray for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Hankins, Harris, Chapman, Gill, Hampton, Uyghur, Johnson, Warren.
Okay, and a quorum is established. Business item number 1, consider adopting a resolution of the City of Lawton approving a term sheet, including any floor amendments that may be made to said resolution and term sheet, to amend the redevelopment agreement by and among the City of Lawton, the Lawton Economic Development Authority, the Comanche County Industrial Development Authority, and West Wind Elements, Inc., for the development of a pilot facility and refinery for the refinement of cobalt, nickel, and other critical elements in the West Side Industrial Park redevelopment, authorizing and directing the Center for Economic Development Law to prepare the amended redevelopment agreement, amended escrow agreement, amended covenant agreement, and all supporting documents and security instruments as are necessary and appropriate to implement and carry out the terms of the amended redevelopment agreement. Amending resolution number 23-18 to authorize and direct the funding of the $10 million in assistance and development financing to be made from the Capital Improvement Project Fund as authorized by a citywide vote of the citizens of Lawton on February 11, 2020, and as set forth in resolution number 23-75, item B6, also known as the 2019 Propel Capital Improvement Project. Directing and authorizing the transfer and release of the $10 million assistance and development financing to the Lawton Economic Development Authority in its capacity to implement the Skills Training, Education, Development, and Investment STEADY work project and make distributions in support of the pilot facility and redevelopment agreement in accordance with the terms of the amended redevelopment agreement and supporting documents. Who's going to speak on this first? Barry, you're going to make a presentation. Okay, Barry Zersky is here today as representative, the chairman of LEDC, Lawton Economic Development Corporation. Barry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Oh, sorry. I thought it was. Can you hear me now? There we go. All right. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. For those of you who have been around economic development for a while, you know that every project has twists and turns. I mean, even going back to Goodyear in the 70s, I mean, things changed. This one with West Wind definitely had been a winding road. They culminated about a month ago with a series of meetings between attorneys for both sides, our city leadership from CCIDA, LEDA, our executive board, and Brad's team. And what came out of it was this agreement. We went into this really with two goals, and one was to have a big win for Lawton Fort Sill and Comanche County, bringing hundreds of jobs, having a state-of-the-art plant that would be one of the first of its kind to be built in the United States for a product that is in short supply worldwide and is expanding every day, the need for it. The second part of it, which is almost, if not more important, was to do our due diligence in protecting and securing the public funds that we were entrusted to look after. And we feel that we did this with this agreement. I will tell you that before we get into the terms and so forth, I do want to give a shout out to Brad and his team, because during this whole process, they continually stayed in front of Westwind. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of suitors out there for this. There's a lot of people in this country that want this plant. They were getting inquiries from Texas and Missouri, even in our own state. And I kind of liken it to a five-star football player who makes a commitment to a university, but then other schools are still going to keep recruiting him hard until he signs on the dotted line, which is what we have here today. So let me just give you a little background about what happened with Westwind a little bit. They added more members to their team. They went in and they got people that have actually built facilities like this. They people who have ran facilities like this, plant managers who are experienced with this. They then went out and got a board of directors that has some pretty heavy hitters on it, led by Dennis Muhlenberg, who was the ex-CEO of Boeing. When they got down to the finish line, though, on this, they still needed to come up with their last remaining piece of financing, which was the $126 million. And to get that, they had to do a bankable feasibility study. Now, to do the bankable feasibility study, they have to create a pilot plant first. And basically, it's just a scaled-down version of the main plant. They still produce product, they still can sell product, it's just on a much smaller scale. That proves that they can do what they say they're going to do. When that becomes successful, and they believe it'll take about 2 years to get that study done, and we have put in here by June 1st of 2026, they will have to get that done and provide everything the banks need to finish their financing. Then they will be able to meet all the other benchmarks and get the actual plant started. What we have done with this, and they came to us and asked us to help them with the construction of this pilot plant. The construction of the pilot plant is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.6 million, and we've committed $2 million. Now remember, we have $24 million from the original deal set aside, $12 million in the land from CCIDA, $12 million in funding that's set aside in our escrow. $2 million from CCIDA, $10 million from the city. So we're going to put $2 million from CCIDA and $1 million from the city into the pilot plant. We're not spending any more than that, and it's just going to be for hard costs for the construction only. Further protecting the public funds, we wanted to make sure that LIDA, who's going to be managing this, has total control throughout the process, and that's done by making this a construction loan. What's going to happen is CCIDA is going to take 40 of the 480 acres they have out there. They're going to shift control of that to LIDA. LIDA will then lease the land to the redeveloper, which is Westwind. Then they will do basically it amounts to a construction loan. It's very similar that if you were going to build a house and you went to a bank to get a construction loan, the bank would then give draws to your builder. And they would have to meet certain benchmarks to get the next draw. That's exactly what we've set up here. And in addition to that, we're also protected from the fact that even during construction, if the deal falls through, we will be able to get all the plans, the architectural drawings, contracts with the contractor so that we can finish the building and then end up with the building in the end. And I tell you, that's a very important key to this, because believe me, from our committee, we've been working for 6 months talking about trying to get a building that we can market to either lease or sell to another economic development entity that comes along down the road. And for us to have that is definitely an asset at the end, so we did that as protection as well. Now, I'm going to go through some of the term sheet. I'm not going to go through line by line, but I'm just going to hit some highlights that I think that are important. First of all, this agreement is between the city, LIDA, CCIDA, and Westwind as the redeveloper. LEDC is not involved. We were just a facilitator in this. The pilot facility, they will hope to start by October. They want to be done by March of next year. They have committed to putting $6 million in capital investments, both in machinery and other equipment at the facility, and of course, anything that goes over the $3 million that we put into it. With that, they will have 40 full-time jobs to start at an average salary of at least $100,000. And by the end of the when their study is wrapping up in 2026, that amount will increase to 85 people. Paragraph 4 is very important. One, it establishes the leases for 3 years. But more importantly, it establishes the parameters for which, if they default on any of the agreements that they've agreed to, how we get the property back. If they don't meet their criteria, the lease will terminate. The redeveloper will immediately vacate, surrender the property at their expense, remove all personal property, equipment, machinery, furniture, fixtures, cobalt ore, nickel ore, other critical elements, other debris on the leased property, leaving it back to us in a good, presentable condition, free of damage and free of hazardous materials. And if they don't do that, in the original agreement that we had with them, there is $14 million of insurance on that. In the next paragraph, it talks about that the money that we're giving out to them in the loan is for hard construction costs only, as far as the construction of the facility. Paragraph 7 is also important because it establishes security agreements that will place LEDA in the first place seniority as a lien holder to protect our interest should a default occur. They will also be given, as I mentioned earlier, all the construction documents, architectural plans, and anything else we need with the contractor to finish the plant should it happen, if it should fall through sooner. The next paragraphs deal with how the draw system is going to be set up, and you can read through that. And then we get to the last page, which is the amendments. And there's a couple important parts on here as well. The minimum investment that they project has increased, almost by 10%. Originally, it was less than this, and it's now $732.5 million once they do their final plant. In addition, they're willing to give us 30 shares of common stock in Westwind Elements, which right now they estimate would be around $400,000. And that would then be given to LEDC to start our kitty to try to work on future economic development. The last points on the new employment, originally I know the employment numbers were a lot more. Well, the people that they have now did their own analysis, and what they determined is that with the way the plants that they have been associated with and what they do, they have determined that 735 employees is what they can guarantee, especially with advances in machinery and so forth and technology. Now, they did say that it doesn't mean that down the road, and they're not guaranteeing this, but that they make agreements with other companies that they're selling materials to, that they could end up having some type of small facilities there as well, storage, whatever. That is definitely a possibility, but once again, it's not a guarantee. And then, of course, if you do REMI models, the number, even 735 jobs, is just going to be exponentially increasing the amount of jobs that are developed in the community because of this plant. So both retail, restaurants, etc. So that is the agreement. We feel it's a fair agreement, and we feel this is great for Lawton Fort Sill and for the Comanche County area. I'm going to turn this over to Brad Cooksey, our president of LEDC, who has some other remarks, and he also has a letter from the company to address some environmental concerns.
Hey, good afternoon, Council, Mayor. It's good to see you guys again. And as always, it's a pleasure to stand up here and present a project like this. If you guys recall back, I think it was late May, maybe early June, I presented to you guys an executive session, kind of a status update of where Westwind was, and kind of some things that happened in the direction of the project had moved a little bit and shifted. Well, from that point forward is when we put on our thinking caps and our negotiation caps and really got down to business. And I know we've said this time and time again, but the entities that were involved, to include, the City of Lawton, CCIDA, and LEDA, and of course our office, really did a good job of coming together. We spent countless hours, getting this thing done with West Wind. But as Barry had mentioned, we feel like this is a good deal, and maybe, it was a blessing in disguise that we had that little bump in the road and there was a change in direction, because I think the deal that we have in front of you right now is a little bit more safer, a little bit more cost effective as we move forward when it comes to this project. So, we feel really good about where we're at with this. Now, we've heard some concerns, obviously, about the project in different aspects. One of those is an environmental concern. And Tanya just passed out to you guys a letter from West Wind Elements. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read this aloud so that we can all follow through. To all concerned parties, the West Wind pilot plant is being designed by highly experienced and knowledgeable personnel who have spent many years both operating and managing production facilities using similar technologies and processes, but on a much larger scale. These previous facilities were located in various countries with varying proximities to local communities, including one that's significantly closer to the public than what's in Lawton. This has enabled us to build high level of understanding about the importance of safety in terms of both protecting our staff and our neighbors. We take this very seriously and can offer assurances that the design technology and capability will be of the highest standard throughout the construction and operation of this plant, and that we intend to comprehensively train our staff to treat the process with the highest degree of respect to ensure that we have nothing but a positive relationship with our local community. The safety of our people and our neighbors is and always will be the number one priority. So obviously, that's coming from the chief technical officer. So they're going to do everything they can and to prevent anything like any environmental issues. Obviously, they've got to go through DEQ and things of that nature to make it environmentally safe. So we wanted to address that in front of you guys right now, just to show that, hey, there's no concerns. They got to meet certain standards both at a state level and a federal level when it comes to that safety product of it. Again, we're extremely happy with the resolution that we have here, the amended agreement, and welcome any comments or questions that you guys have. But before we do, I'd like to introduce two members of their staff that are sitting in the audience. Well, really three. You guys remember Jeannie Bowden, who is our former projects and operations manager, who we got very mad at West Wind when they offered her a job, but we forgave them. So Jeannie works for them now. And then next to her is Kelly Masters. She's the legal counsel for West Wind Elements. And then Daniel Smith, and your title?
VP of External Affairs.
Vice President of External Affairs. So we're glad to have them in the audience today. This is a good day, and this morning went very, very well, and we got some good dialogue and discussion from all the other entities. So we're excited to be here wrapping it up with you guys.
Okay, and council, I think before we ask questions, so you guys stay close, we're going to go to the public comments. We've had two people sign up to speak, and our first will be Aquarian Yarborough Sr. If you'll go ahead and come and give us your name again in case I mispronounced it, along with your address.
Aquarian Yarborough, 8218 Southwest Sun Valley, Lawton, Oklahoma. All right, so I just wanted to come up because I was at your meeting this morning, and I mean, I'm a businessman, so contrary to belief, I guess, to everybody up here. So in reference to LEDA, it just bothered me because I didn't know that we had like a group of unelected officials. I was unsure of that, and it gets me because even when I'm listening in that meeting and I hear Fred Fitch talking, and he's running things like he's the mayor. You know, I've seen him come up here and run things, and then I also seen it downstairs when you came in. He didn't even go through the metal detectors. You know, and I'm saying that because everyone's acting as if these things are normal and they're okay, and they're not, because we as citizens didn't elect this group. We didn't elect for this group to get shares. I got some money, guys. I'd like to buy some shares. I'm a citizen. Can we all get some? We're not saying we want in for free, but we'd want some. But this has been going on for so long and it's been hidden, and y'all aren't sharing it with us. It's not fair. Once again, we don't want jobs. I don't want to work for none of y'all. I don't want to work for none of y'all. We want to do business. We want to invest just like y'all. None of y'all have ever invited us to the table to say, hey, you doing all that talking? You got some money? Aquarion, you doing all that talking? Come on to the table. But every time we try to come to the table without throwing money out there and seeming arrogant, it seems as if we're treated bad because we're not throwing money out there. Well, now I'm throwing some money out there. Why don't we get in on this? This isn't right, y'all. This isn't right. This is right up the street from my house. And I'm just saying, these things bother me. LEDA, CCIDA, all of these groups, we know nothing about as citizens. We didn't elect them. And it's crazy who's getting all the money. I'm pretty smart, guys. I'll be honest. I study this stuff every day. I know what you're looking for. I know what's going on. I know what's going on. I don't say it because the citizens, they don't get it. I know what's going on. But include us. That's all we're saying. Include. 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 Include these citizens, us, me, you, everybody. And he shouldn't be in control of anything. That's unfair. He's already been the mayor. He's had his turn. You're supposed to be the mayor.
We'll have some clarification on some of those comments that were made in just a minute, but I'm going to continue with public comments, and Comanche Chairman Mark Wumavoya has a comment he wants to make. Mr. Chairman, good to have you.
Mark Wumavoya, Chairman of the Comanche Nation, 1117 Mount Panock, Lawton, Oklahoma. First of all, Mayor, Council, thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the invitation to the table. The Comanche Nation appreciates that. What's good for the city of Lawton, Fort Sill, is good for the Comanche Nation. I believe in the leadership of West Wind Elements. I met with them. Our gaming CEO has met with them. And we believe in them. And we believe that they're going to add value, not only to our community, but to our state. So, City Council, as the leader of a sovereign nation and as the leader in a community, I support this initiative. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for coming, giving us your comments as a representative of the Comanche Nation. Okay, now I'm going to get, just to clarify the ownership of the stock, I'm going to ask the attorney to go ahead and explain ownership of stock in the city of Lawton. Tim?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Barry, when he gave his presentation, mentioned a statement about there being stock as part of this transaction, and I think he said that used us will be getting stock. So to clear that point up a little bit, though, under state law, the city nor an authority can own stock. So the city under this agreement is not getting stock, neither is LEDA. The stock in the agreement is going to LEDC, which will be used and held for the benefit of economic development. So just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, and any citizen that is interested in investing needs to deal directly with the company, and I believe they have a unit that takes care of that. Is that right, Jeannie? Okay, now we're going to go to council questions and discussion, and Barry and Brad, why don't y'all come back up so you can be prepared to answer questions as we go through. Council, do you have questions about the term sheet or anything?
Mr. Mayor.
Well, maybe not anything that we're about germane. John, are you wanting to say something first? Excuse me.
Mayor, I was just going to say, you announced that there were 2 public comments, so I don't know if there's going to be another person to... Oh, okay, okay.
So, Barry, our initial investment is $3 million between the two, between the city and Lawton Economic Development. Is that correct?
For the pilot plant.
And so, ultimately, will it still be 24 or 25 million?
Yes. So
if everything comes to fruition?
that's a great point. Not one penny more than what we originally agreed to is contained in this agreement. So The 24 million is the 24 million. The 3 million will be taken out of the 12 million that is set aside for funding right now, and will be taken out of that escrow. 2 million from CCIDA, 1 million from the City of Lawton.
And they will match that with 7 million, did I read that correctly?
Well, they estimate that the project will cost about 3.6 million, according to the records they supplied us for the actual construction, and then they intend to add another $6 million in machinery and equipment that they will put in and invest in that plant.
And that equipment is theirs or always will be theirs?
It is theirs, always will be theirs. If it doesn't pan out, then they will remove all that and then clean up the facility to hand back to us.
And then we will maintain ownership of the building and the land.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Council, other questions? Well, or comments. You can make comments too. Mr. Warren.
No questions. I've read it 2 or 3 times and been to 2 or 3 meetings. So I just think it's a better deal than the first one was. I think we are in a safer position. I feel like I think it's positive. Nothing but good can happen. As been stated, if something negative did happen, the city still has a building that we can provide to a different company if that was needed. But I think that we're gonna move forward with this. I think I have great faith in Westwind. I believe that they're going to be going full steam come this time next year, and that with I've said this before and poke Goodyear a little bit. If Goodyear's not careful, this might be the best thing that's ever happened to us. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You know, I want to talk a little bit about this process because, you know, it started out completely different, and there was a place where we even thought that we'd lost it. And when they came to us and told us about the change of the process and the numbers, and we met the new team, we were immediately impressed with the team that they'd put together when the first process didn't do what it was supposed to do. We were impressed with the new team, but we had a problem. We had public funds that were set aside for 2,300. And I'm going to be frank, it almost killed the deal. We had to sit down at some point and say, you know what, if they brought this deal to us today, the way they are, and never having said 2,300 jobs, we would think we were getting a heck of a deal. And that's what got us back on board. And so I really think this is a good deal. And I'm going to tell you, I also am very proud of our community and all of the authorities that have come together to make this work. Well, LEDC is not an authority, but LEDCs come together, CCIDAs come together, LEDAs come together under the leadership of Fred Fitch, which is fine with me, Mr. Mayor. And the City of Lawton, and I've been the representative for the city, and we have worked diligently for hours to put this deal together, and that's the way these economic development deals goes. You get them going along and they fail on you, they don't work. And what I mean is they never get here. You've got a deal and it falls apart before they get here. Deals continue to change up till they get here to make them work, and that's the way economic development is. What's interesting about this one is it's even been made stronger, and I think given us all a little more comfort to build this pilot plant with a building that we get back if it doesn't work. If for some reason they don't complete the deal and go to the big opportunity, then we get a building back for a spec plant. Now, let me just talk about our little sister to the east, Duncan. They have 14 spec buildings. We have 0. and that's a problem. So we've got to start thinking about, as we think further, we've got to start thinking about building some spec buildings too. Many of the inquiries that we get for economic development want a building, and they want it immediately. They don't want it in 6 months or a year. They want it now. And we're losing deals because we haven't done that. So I think you'll see LEDC bringing some recommendations as we go along. I'm very supportive of this, very minimal risk. If I remember right, it's $14 million of environmental insurance involved in this. So I'm very supportive, and I think Mr. Gill's wanting to speak.
I do. I think we've got a great opportunity here. I remember when we thought we had this deal pretty well put together, and then for various reasons it fell apart, and I was somewhat depressed about it. It's a great event to hit a city the size of Lawton. As Mayor Fitch said in one of his more elegant presentations earlier in the year, a city our size gets a hit at the apple about once in their lifetime, and our hit was Goodyear 45 years ago. We're getting a second chance, which statistically doesn't happen. And I was depressed when they decided they weren't going to come. So now we're getting a second chance at the apple, and I think it's great. Let me say something about having buildings available for other manufacturers and people coming to Lawton. A day doesn't go by that I don't get a call for 50,000 square foot or larger. Not a day, just seems like every day when we don't have anything. A lot of people are not aware that Goodyear has to make special tires for electric cars, and they can't make them here. Now they're going to do a plan out here to make those. Goodyear is in Duncan right now today, have been there about a year, making tires for electric cars in a 50,000 square foot plus building because Duncan had one. Not because they wanted to, but Duncan had one. So we need buildings like that out here. That's an asset to have that building if we ever did have to take it. I don't see that happening. So I just want to say that there's nothing sure in life. You have to take chances, but chances of this type are thought through, looked at by various groups. The potential for the investment is just astronomical. I mean, any businessman trying to do a business anywhere in the country would love this kind of deal, and we're lucky enough to have it. So I can't say enough about how good I think it is for Lawton, for our community. We do need to grow, we need to continue to grow, and this is certainly something that will make that happen. And having said all of that, I would like to move to approve the proposed resolution with the following modifications. Strike the sentence on page 4 of the proposed resolution stating, whereas the Board of Trustees of LEDA has approved the term sheet by resolution at a special meeting. Number 2, replace the draft August the 11th of 2023 term sheet with an updated term sheet signed by Western Elements Incorporated on August the 15th, 2023, and incorporate and attach the term sheet signed by Weston on August the 15th, 2023 to the resolution.
Okay, so we have a motion. We're going to get an explanation from the attorney before we ask for a second.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So with regards to the motion, the language about replacing the term sheet, what went out in your original packet a few days ago was a term sheet from August 11th, and it's been very fluid going back and forth with West Wind, and we just a day ago really got an updated one that was signed on August 15th, which has been passed out to you. So I'm going to make sure clear in the motion that what you're voting on is the term sheet that West Wind signed on August 15th. And the second issue with regards to LEDA, the part about striking some language about LEDA approving, there was a special LEDA meeting this morning, and LEDA did approve a resolution and did approve a term sheet, but they added a condition as a part of a floor amendment regarding a bond for concerning cleanup. So we'll need to work with LEDA on that. So, but for clarification, spoke with our attorney with the Center for Economic Law Development, and she recommended we strike that one sentence.
Okay. Any questions on the explanation? on the explanation, do you, before we ask for a second, we're going to make sure we get this on. Okay, Mr. Hampton.
Thank you, Mayor. I just really wanted to make a comment. I think that anytime you make a decision to do anything, it shows a lot if you can come back and decide to look at yourself and the options that you have. And I think it's a very, very prudent act. I mean, some believe that there was a glitch, but I think that in life, glitches usually give us the opportunity to be prudent in what we're doing. And it is no doubt that I think it is, it does protect the interests of the citizens for us to do this pilot program, because it is no doubt it will prove something beside before all or more money is spent in it. And I want to say that opportunity is an interesting thing, because opportunity doesn't come all the time. And when opportunity comes, you have to act on opportunity. And in that, I think it's also prudent that if things don't pan out like we want, that it's said that being prepared will bring opportunity. And I think that this whole plan and everything that's presented has put us in a much better position and put the citizens of Lawton in a much better position. Thank you, Mayor.
You want to go ahead and make a second?
I do want to second that motion, Mayor.
Okay, now, other comments or questions, and yes, you can still ask questions about Tim's explanation. I think Kelly was next. Go ahead, Ms. Chapman.
Well, I'm excited about this project, seeing it coming hopefully to fruition. And I want to say thank you to every one of you people who are not sitting up here, who have donated hours and hours of time to this. Also, I want to thank you for clarification on some of the allegations and accusations that were presented here to us today. I think it's very important to get correct information out to the public. We don't need misinformation and name calling and everything else. I'm upset about that, as you can tell. I'm tired of it. But I want you to know that you are appreciated, and we're going to move forward on this. So thank you very much.
Amen.
Mr. Harris.
For the city attorney, I have a question. If this was signed on the 15th, does that meet the 48-hour window for being on the agenda for today?
Okay, so yes, because what we're talking about here was, and when we wrote the agenda so to allow for floor amendments. And so when we did that, we were still in negotiations, and it was a draft document from August 11th. And so that's why I put that in there, so we could have a floor amendment as this was developing. So yes.
And does the motion cover that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the motion does cover it. Other, Randy?
I just want to be the first one to welcome you to Lawton, Oklahoma.
Great. Ms. Johnson?
So Randy stole my thunder. I wanted to be the first. But I also want to thank everyone, all the entities that worked on this project, because it's a lot of time, a lot of volunteer time, and you guys work effortlessly. And I know how hard it is to bring a deal here and how much work goes into it. So thank you all.
Any other comments by council? Okay, I'm going to do something a little different today, but I think it's appropriate under the circumstances. And I'm going to offer the mic to Mayor Fitch in case he wants to come up and make any comments about this. Do you, sir?
Of course.
Now you got to give us your name and address.
Fred Fitch, 3703 Northeast East Lake Drive, right between George and Stan. I am privileged and honored to be able to come up here and say a few comments. The first one I want to make is that when I was mayor of the city of Lawton in November of 2013, I was speaking to a group of young people in the basement, and at that point, I felt very faint, and I felt something was wrong. I left the meeting, and I looked at the city manager at that time, and I said, "You've heard this speech a dozen times. Can you finish it for me?" I had a heart attack that day, and I spent several days in the hospital, and I have a bypass, a pacemaker and a defibrillator in my chest right here, and that's why I walk through the gate downstairs. They take me aside and run a wand up and down me, and then I can go through. But I can't go through the deal like everybody else does. I wanted to clarify that. But no, this has been an exciting adventure. I've been involved in economic development since Goodyear came in 1978. And I've seen this community get behind us and do things and accept things. I remember when we did the weenie factory, as it was referred to by some people. And why did we bring a hot dog plant to Lawton, Oklahoma? And I said, this is a good plant, they're good people, and they've got a good product, and they're going to be here for a long time. Well, I don't know how long ago that was, but that was a long, long time ago. They still maintain 350, 60 employees, and they've done everything they've said they're going to do and more. And they've provided a lot of jobs for a lot of people in this community for, 15 more years. I've been involved with Republic Paper. I've been involved with Silverline Plastics. I've been involved with quite a few others. But this one is really different. I've never had the opportunity to be involved in a project where you had the CEO's phone number, personal phone, in your hip pocket, that you could call at any time and ask questions, clarify things, whatever. I've never seen somebody that is so enthusiastic about bringing their facility to Lawton, Oklahoma. And we have been very privileged that we've been able to work on this, and it's been a great opportunity. We've had 4 entities working on this, spending lots and lots of hours. Just the other day when we were in the tights of getting everything done and finalized, we were there from 9:30 in the morning till almost 7 o'clock at night. And we love that. We love the opportunity that we could do that, because when we walked out of there, we knew we had a signed term sheet coming back from the plant, from the West Wind people. And that is a good satisfaction and good thing to know. But the community themselves have been behind us in so many things. I remember when we did the Varus plant, we passed a 1-cent sales tax for, I think, 1 year, raised $7 million, and put that into that plant. And they came, and it was a done deal. But the community has always gotten in there with us and supported us and everything, and it's great that we have a community like we have. But this is a great company. They're structured well. They've got some fine people. They got knowledge people, experienced people, people that have worked in plants like this, people that have built plants like this, people that have had interest in plants like this. And it's going to be a tremendous asset for this community, and it's going to grow and grow and grow. We don't understand that China controls, and Russia, 72% of all the cobalt sales in the world. We have to buy from them. Our reserves are so low in cobalt right now that we are in trouble from a great metal resource. And we've got to get that back up. And a lot of the first years of manufacturing are going to be building up our reserve in our own stockpile. The airline industry, the auto industry, the military industry, as far as the structure of tanks and weaponry and things of that nature, batteries for the cars and everything else. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity. There's going to be tremendous growth, and it's going to be a beacon of shining light for Lawton, Oklahoma, that we've got it here. But I thank you, each and every one. Thank you guys for all the time, and ladies, that you serve on the council. I know what it's like to sit up there. But anyway, you're a great bunch of people, and the people that back out here that supported us in getting this done, we appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you for your continued service to our city. Let's give him a round of applause. Okay, any more comments before we vote? Okay, let's vote. And the motion carries 8-0. I think that deserves a round of applause as well. Do I have a motion for adjournment? Have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Chapman? Gill?
Yes.
Hampton? Uyghur? Johnson? Warren? Hankins? Harris?
Say hell yes.
Yeah.